The laughter that echoed through late-night television for over 2 decades has fallen silent. Jimmy Kimmel, the man who brought humor into millions of homes, is now grieving the devastating loss of his best friend and music director, Cleto Escobedo III. From childhood mischief to Hollywood stages, their bond was legendary, a brotherhood that outlasted fame, fortune, and time. But now, that bond has been tragically broken. Stay tuned, because today we're diving into the emotional story behind this heartbreaking goodbye. The man who stood beside Kimmel since the beginning, and the void his passing leaves behind. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe to Hollywood Dough for more emotional and exclusive deep dives into celebrity stories that go beyond the headlines. Before Jimmy Kimmel Live became a late-night institution, there were just 2 kids, Jimmy Kimmel and Cleto Escobedo III, running wild through the neighborhoods of Las Vegas. They were inseparable. Jimmy often joked that Cleto was there for every bad idea he ever had as a kid, from neighborhood pranks to basement jam sessions. Their friendship wasn't built in studios or green rooms. It was built on laughter, shared dreams, and the kind of loyalty that only comes once in a lifetime. As kids, Jimmy played the clarinet, and Cleto played the saxophone. Years later, those childhood instruments would become symbols of something far greater, a bond that music itself couldn't define. By the early 2000s, when ABC greenlit Jimmy Kimmel Live, Jimmy knew exactly who he wanted leading the band. It wasn't just a job for Cleto, it was destiny. Together, they built one of the most recognizable late-night shows in the world. With Cleto and the Cletones providing the soundtrack to Kimmel's humor, his sketches, and his heart. Then came the news no one expected. Just as fans tuned in for another week of Jimmy Kimmel Live, reports began to circulate. Cleto Escobedo III had passed away. Jimmy took to Instagram, his words raw and deeply personal. To say that we are heartbroken is an understatement. Cleo and I have been inseparable since I was 9 years old. The fact that we got to work together every day is a dream neither of us could ever have imagined would come true. Attached were photos, 2 young boys holding instruments, snapshots of a friendship that time never eroded. There was even one from what Jimmy jokingly called the Great Cake Compromise of 1978. His humor peeked through the heartbreak, a defense mechanism for a man who just lost the person who made laughter possible. Then came the news no one expected. Just as fans tuned in for another week of Jimmy Kimmel Live, reports began to circulate. Cleto Escobedo III had passed away. Jimmy took to Instagram, his words raw and deeply personal. To say that we are heartbroken is an understatement. Cleo and I have been inseparable since I was 9 years old. The fact that we got to work together every day is a dream neither of us could ever have imagined would come true. Attached were photos, 2 young boys holding instruments, snapshots of a friendship that time never eroded. There was even one from what Jimmy jokingly called the Great Cake Compromise of 1978. His humor peeked through the heartbreak, a defense mechanism for a man who just lost the person who made laughter possible. The entertainment world was shaken. Late-night hosts, comedians, and musicians flooded social media with tributes. Jimmy Fallon wrote that Cleto's presence on Kimmel's show gave it a soulful rhythm no other late-night band had. John Mayer praised Cleto as a musician's musician, someone who made every note feel alive. And Questlove of The Roots said simply, "Every band leader knows what Cleto meant, not just to the show, but to Jimmy." That bond is rare. Fans were equally emotional. Many recalled moments when Cleto's laughter could be heard faintly on air. Those unscripted bursts that reminded viewers the show was more than just comedy, it was family. Some fans even revisited the show's earliest episodes from 2003, commenting things like, "More tipit, wolo takin tabadesin." You can see their chemistry from day one. 2 best friends living their dream. What many people don't know is just how deep the Kimmel Escobedo connection ran. Cleto's father, Cleto Escobedo Jr., was also part of the Cletones, making this a multi-generational musical legacy. The Escobedos were beloved in the Las Vegas jazz scene, long before Jimmy became a household name. It was Cleto Jr. who first introduced young Jimmy to live band performances, the spark that eventually inspired the format of Jimmy Kimmel Live itself. Behind the scenes, Cleto was more than the band leader. He was Kimmel's creative compass. When sketches didn't land, Cleto was the one who'd suggest a musical cue or reaction to bring the energy back. He even composed several original intros and musical bits that audiences didn't realize were his. Crew members often described him as the heartbeat of the show. Even when cameras weren't rolling, he was cracking jokes, calming nerves, and keeping the rhythm going. Television insiders have long acknowledged how essential Cleto was to the Jimmy Kimmel Live. Formula late-night producer Lisa G once said, "Jimmy had the comedy, but Cleto had the chemistry. You can't manufacture that. It's real history." Music journalist Brad Nelson described Cleto's sound as warm and human, a blend of Vegas soul and modern cool. He made the band feel like a character in the show. Several insiders have also revealed that when ABC executives once considered replacing the Cletones with a studio band to cut costs, Kimmel fought fiercely to keep Cleto. He told them flat out, "No Cleto, no show." One source said, "The emotional toll is unimaginable." Jimmy has reportedly taken time off to process the loss, and while Jimmy Kimmel Live will continue, insiders say it will never be the same. Cleto wasn't just a co-worker, he was the heartbeat of the studio, the sound that followed every monologue, every prank, every heartfelt moment. Without him, there's a silence that even laughter can't fill. Industry analysts predict that the show will dedicate an entire episode to honoring Cleto's memory, something deeply personal, possibly featuring archival footage, behind-the-scenes stories, and performances from artists who loved him. As for Jimmy himself, those close to him say he's heartbroken, but determined to keep Cleto's spirit alive in the show. A source told Variety, "Jimmy feels like the best way to honor Cleto is to keep doing what they loved, making people laugh." Hollywood has seen its share of emotional goodbyes. Stephen Colbert losing his family members early in life. David Letterman mourning his mentor Johnny Carson. James Corden parting from his own band leader Reggie Watts. But this one hits differently. Jimmy Kimmel's friendship with Cleto wasn't forged by fame. It predated it. They grew up together, dreamed together, and made it together. In a world where Hollywood friendships often fade, theirs endured half a century. In the end, this isn't just a story about a celebrity losing a colleague. It's about a man losing his brother in all but blood. Cleto Escobedo III wasn't just the music director of Jimmy Kimmel Live. He was part of its soul. His saxophone notes, his laughter, his friendship, all of it created the soundtrack to Jimmy's life. Jimmy's tribute reminds us of something simple but profound, that success means little without the people who made the journey worthwhile. So, as Hollywood mourns, we celebrate Cleto's life, his music, and his unbreakable bond with Jimmy Kimmel. Now we want to hear from you. What's your favorite Jimmy Kimmel Live moment featuring Cleto and the Cletones? Let's remember the music, the laughter, and the friendship that defined an era.